Today in the food factory, mint and chocolate, a match made in heaven. A creamy bacon pasta sauce that's a little bit boozy. And why variety really is the spice of life. But first, a really cheesy snack. Crispy, crunchy, and very cheesy. Cheese twists are perfect for a case of the munchies. And to also turn your fingers orange. And you have these guys to thank for that. Brothers Chris and Peter Neal founded their company 26 years ago.
Loved food. I knew Chris would be an amazing partner. Had all sorts of great qualities that...
I was capable. I fit the mold.
He smelled pleasant.
A bit cheesy, perhaps. These brothers have always had a soft spot for a special snack.
Everyone remembers those crunchy little cheese products that we ate as kids. We thought we could put a twist on it and launch this same product, and they're unbelievable.
You also had a cheese twist fetish.
This tale gets its twisty start at this factory. First, cornmeal is added to a mixer. Then rice flour. Everything that goes in is organic. Water is piped in, and they're mixed together until a dough forms. This forms the base for the cheese twist, but you'll have to wait for the cheesy bit. That doesn't happen till later. The mixture is sent through a series of pipes to this guy, Daryl, fashion leader and master of the twist. An extruder is his tool of the trade, but this machine goes by many different names.
Yeah, the crunchy machine, the curl extruder, some people call it super crunchy, but we just like calling it curl.
A machine by any other name would still smell as sweet. When Daryl's ready, it's time to release the twists. He turns the wheel to allow the dough to come through into the extruder. Heat and pressure force the mixture through the curl and out of a series of small holes, where a spinning blade chops them to length. This process transforms the dough into little twists, also called culettes.
Cheese twists are little guys about this big, and they're oblong, they're odd-shaped.
They're thin. They're not puffed. They're thin and they're crunchy.
The curl is surrounded by a metal cage to prevent them from flying everywhere, making a cheese twist tornado. Extruded culettes travel down the conveyor into a tube, where air pressure forces them straight up into a holding tank. When there are enough twists, it's time to roll. They're released onto a conveyor belt and poured over a cone, so they're dispersed evenly before heading into a tunnel oven, where they're baked at 150 degrees Celsius to remove any excess moisture. Once crispy and crunchy, hot culettes head into a giant tumbler. The seasoning mixture of powdered cheddar cheese and salt is poured in. The tumbling twists are first sprayed with sunflower oil to get them a little bit sticky, and then the seasoning mix is sprinkled on.
We just added a more natural and organic twist to our twists. And
It's way cheesier. It's way cheesier.
it gets all over your fingers, and when you're at a cocktail party, all over, you can identify your glass better at a party because it's covered in the orange cheese. Yeah.
Remind me not to shake your hands, boys. Next, the twists head from the tumbler up a giant conveyor to an automatic sorter. Here, a video system is used to scan for defective twists. The twists are weighed into 113-gram portions. A form and fill machine creates bags from a giant roll, and each portion is simultaneously dropped in. Air is added to each bag to protect the fragile contents. And then they're heat sealed, separated into individual bags, and sent down a conveyor. So, how many bags can you eat at one time?
We got to 13 and we felt sick, but it was an unlucky number, so we hit 14.
We pushed it. We went for the record.
Yeah, and then we high-fived with cheesy hands.
You are so rock and roll, boys. When the twists reach the end of the line, workers pack them by hand into boxes. Then they're put on pallets and sent to storage, where they'll remain until they're ready to be shipped to snackers everywhere. Okay, boys, tell me this. When is the best time to eat cheese twists?
Pretty much any time you're awake, then you can eat them is a good time.
Yeah, I know the best time not to have a cheese twist, when you're in the bathtub, because they don't hold up very well.
So, a snack you can enjoy any time, except in the bath. Peppermint adds a cool, crisp flavour wherever it's used. And some sweets definitely take advantage, like these bite-sized discs. Michael Keller is proud of his patties.
Pearson's mint patty literally melts in your mouth as you eat it. It's kind of a fun eating experience that way, and it's unique. You feel like you're eating a little bit of mint history when you eat a Pearson's mint patty.
The company was founded by P. Edward Pearson in 1909 with the help of his brothers John and Oscar, and they added the mints to their line of confectionery in 1951. They're conjured up in this factory in St. Paul, Minnesota. Like many sweets, patties start with the mixture of sugar and corn syrup, which are boiled together in a large kettle. This hot syrup flows to a cooling drum, where a thin film is deposited evenly on its surface as it rotates and cools. It's then scraped off into a hopper below in a sparkly crystalline cascade. The hopper feeds a beater, which whips the clear mixture into a thick snow-white fondant. The fondant empties into another mixer, where Mink Cook Tom introduces concentrated peppermint oil into the batch.
It is a very strong peppermint flavor. In fact, it's so strong, if you were to get it on your fingers in raw form or get it on your lips and tongue in your raw form, it would burn. It would burn like an oil from a chili pepper would burn.
But when you've worked here as long as Tom, you develop a tolerance.
I'm immune to mints.
Along with the peppermint, an enzyme called invertase is sprinkled into the minty mix. Invertase breaks down the fondant's sugar component, gradually softening it. So, by the time you put it in your mouth, it's impeccably smooth. The finished fondant flows to a holding kettle that pumps the mixture downstairs to what's known as the mogul, a master mint-making machine. It fills shallow trays with cornstarch, and a printing board presses rows of indents into the starch beds. The fluffy white fondant is deposited into the starch molds in one swift move.
Starch mold casting and using starch mold boards like that have actually been around for well over 100 years. It's a candy making technique that goes back to the 19th century.
Once they're filled, the trays are stacked into towers, which are robotically transferred to a tempering room. All aboard the sweetie train, and no snacking in the aisles. Keep your sticky fingers to yourself, and don't forget to enjoy the ride. After curing at room temperature for 8 to 10 hours, the starch boards head back to the mogul, where they're turned over, separating the hardened patty centers from the starch. Once flipped, the centers head to a shaking table. And then a vacuum tunnel. Both help to remove any lingering starch. Dusted off, the chips fall onto a polishing line, where rolling brushes give them a nice buffing. They then fall into line, whether they like it or not. Keeping a keen eye out for imperfect centers is Inspector Tony, and you can bet only those in mint condition get past her.
All right, Flight Dog, picking up all your chips out for a big night of poker. Just like that.
Next, onto an enrober, where they're blanketed top to bottom with premium dark chocolate. Twice.
The centers passing through the waterfall chocolate is probably one of the magical moments. We all agree that going through a chocolate waterfall on your back with your mouth open would probably be the best way to do it.
Yeah, that sounds good, Michael. They come out of the other side to go through a cooling tunnel for 8 to 10 minutes to bring their temperature down to a cool 7 degrees Celsius, allowing the chocolate to set. Aligners distribute the patties as they pass, systematically guiding them towards wrapping machines stationed along the sides. The sweets are individually wrapped in shiny silver foil in the blink of an eye.
22 of those wrapping machines, all working sort of together in noisy harmony, are what's required to wrap the hundreds of thousands or millions of mints that we're producing every day.
In fact, if you lined up a year's worth side by side, they'd stretch over 7,500 kilometers, enough to reach the center of the Earth via the scenic route, although they'd probably melt by then. Once wrapped, they shoot down to a conveyor below, which steers them to quality inspection. Any that are subpar are taken out of the mix. The ones that are perfect are transported to packaging, where plastic jars are manually placed on the line. Scales weigh out 1.8 kilogram portions and drop them below. A lid is pressed into place, and then the jars get tilted so the labels can be applied. Plastic sleeves are cut and melted around each jar. They're then inspected, packed into cartons of 6 and put on pallets, ready to be shipped to mint addicts everywhere. Sadly, you can't eat all the evidence.
When you're piling up those mint foils, you certainly have a good record of how many of you've worked your way through.
But come on, who's counting? Penne alla vodka. You know, I always cook with alcohol, and sometimes I even put it in the food. And this is the hard stuff. Somewhere out there is some pasta that's going out on the sauce. Creamy vodka sauce, that is. To company owner Sal Cafone, it's all about the flavor.
You taste the flavor of the vodka, it's a different flavor completely. It's you get tomato sauce, but this is vodka sauce. You got the flavor of vodka.
Here in Ontario, Canada, vodka isn't the only special ingredient in the recipe.
We make it with love.
Ah, love and vodka. Two very potent things. To start with, 15 litres of crushed tomatoes are poured into a stainless steel frying pan, followed by 40 litres of tomato paste and 40 litres of water. A generous dash of spice blend is added, but Sal is keeping tight-lipped about exactly what's in it. Oh well, we're officially up Tomato Creek now. Good thing we have a paddle or two. In the hands of Chef Claudio.
I like it because I make it people happy when they taste my size.
The tomato sauce is set to simmer. While in an adjacent pan, 1.5 kilograms of butter is added. And plenty of bacon.
We use about 150 kilos of bacon a month. Everybody likes bacon nowadays.
The bacon sautés until it's crispy. Then it's full steam ahead, as 2 bottles of premium vodka are poured into the batch. Now you see it, now you don't. But don't worry. The alcohol in the vodka evaporates and acts as a solvent, drawing out and intensifying the flavors. And this company goes through 200 liters of the stuff every month.
The vodka will be added in, and then the steam comes, and all the alcohol will go away, but the flavor remains there.
8 liters of 35% double cream now go in. And over 20 minutes of simmering, the sauce reduces by half. No bacon goodness is left behind, as the sauce is collected into buckets and is incorporated into the bubbling tomato base. Now, for a final 10 minutes of simmering.
Smell it, undescribable. I cannot describe. It's so good. And the smell is making me hungry every day.
I'm hungry just looking at it. Now the distinctly pink sauce is poured into buckets, which are then placed in a fridge to cool. After 2 hours, the chilled sauce is ready to be packaged. A worker fills the 400 milliliter containers by hand, and another places on the lid. Just one batch of sauce fills 300 containers, which are then packed 6 per box and taped shut, ready for delivery. A short pasta is the best vehicle for this sauce.
My favorite is in rigatoni because I like that it gets more sauce in the tubes.
I like it too very much.
What's not to like? Anyone got a fork? Let's face it, sometimes you just need to spice things up. And when you need a bit of added oomph, you need some hot stuff. Basically, if you can cook it, you can add chili powder to it. With the perfect balance of warm heat and complex flavors, no spice cupboard is complete without it. But getting the perfect blend of spices is harder than it sounds.
Chili powder is a real complex flavor. It's warming but not really spicy, and as the attributes of really trying to bring out the flavor of the food without overwhelming it with a very hot and pungent spice.
Spicing up your life begins here in Iowa, USA. Inside, deliveries are met by Christina, and she likes things a bit spicy. She takes samples using a special tool.
That is called a fryer. It gets into the bags a little deeper than what you can do with a scoop.
You could say she's a real-life spice girl.
I would say I'm the best with a fryer in all of the United States.
Christina takes a whirlwind tour of the globe as she samples each of the 7 spices that make up chili powder. Cumin from Turkey, oregano from Egypt, coriander from Bulgaria, garlic from China, allspice from Guatemala, cloves from Sri Lanka, and chili peppers from New Mexico. I hope she's getting her air miles. The samples are taken to a lab where they undergo a series of quality assurance tests.
It takes a very trained group of people to accurately test. Does it taste? Does it smell? Does it look? Is it cut size right? As the CEO, I can tell you that I know a lot about what's going on, but I'm not somebody that, when it comes down to discerning the different tastes of the spice, we leave that to our experts.
Grade A spices are ground and then sent straight up to the top of a dispensing platform. The spices are then poured down a chute, where air pressure separates the granules. They're then released into cotton sacks and placed on racks. Now that is what I call a spice rack. They're rolled right into a steam pasteurization machine. Once the doors close, steam accumulates inside until it's piping hot. Perfect for pasteurizing these spices. Once cooled, they're poured into drums and then into a blending machine. All 7 of the spices go into creating the perfect chili mix. Salty, tangy, earthy, and hot. The spices are gently tossed together. I wonder what that smells like. I wish this was smell-o-vision. The spice mix goes back into drums. And it's time to hit the road. The drums are loaded into trucks and are shipped to this company's packaging facility 40 kilometers away. Here, a worker unpacks bottles. They're given a clean and are ready to be filled. The spices are fed into a bottling machine and a filler pours the blend right in, 80 grams into each jar. As the jars travel down the conveyor belt, they receive a lid, a manufacturing code, and a label. Filled bottles are then boxed and sent to a warehouse to continue the last part of their journey, right into spice cabinets everywhere. It's no secret that when it comes to food, bland is boring and spicy is superior.
There's many different spice blends that you can get away with not having, but chili powder is not one of them.